Good evening, YouTube. I say good evening, but it's actually only 6 o'clock and pitch black outside. I want to talk about this story, this interview. Conscious TV has now interviewed Larry Reid by phone, right? And I have several questions. Of course, I'm going to comment on this, and I assume that other people will comment on it as well. Like I said, you make it public. It's public. This is what we talk about. You didn't want people to talk about it? Talk on the phone. All right, here's what I got from this interview. The first and primary question for me, remembering now that I was a person from the streets, I encountered all kind of hustles, right? All kind of people trying to get over. Drug addicts, them and me. I was a drug addict too. Always looking for an angle, right? Some people prostitutes, some people thieves, some people write checks, and some people are con people, con men and women, right? So I'm going to try to avoid the words hookers, hoes, or things like that because people are accusing people of victim shaming and so forth. But this story has gotten so complex that it's tempting for me to go back and get the original story because I really don't even remember. I remember a couple of stories about Victor Cousins. I think his name was Cousins. Apparently he had been proposed to this woman while he was married to someone else, if I'm right. I don't know. I wanted to come on here and give commentary, but it'd be interesting to go back to the beginning of this story. All right. So my primary question is this. We'll start there. Was there ever any money? To me, that is the primary thing in this whole story. Was there ever any money? Now, I thought my weak understanding that this woman had sued somehow Cousins for breach of contract or something like that because he didn't marry her or whatever. I thought she got money out of him or his church. But it looks like she's supposed to get money from somebody else, some other lawsuit. So I'm wondering, was there ever any lawsuit? Was there ever any millions of dollars? Has she been paid anything from a lawsuit? Right? When I woke up this morning, the assumption was that she had gotten all these millions of dollars and she just opted not to pay him. She reneged on her promise, right? Now I'm beginning to wonder, was there ever any money? And if there was money, was it in the millions of dollars? Okay, that's question number one. Second question goes back to the original story. Was there ever going to be a marriage? See, that story got blown real big, right? But what we're seeing presented now as the character of this woman, and I won't draw a conclusion yet, but the character of the woman, if she is a con woman, if he is Victor Cousins, and I hope I got his name right. If not, please correct me in the comments. If he is a guy who goes out and gets drunk, right? The picture, later on there was a story with him falling down drunk with women in the room. So I want to know, is he the kind of guy who picks up hookers when he's drunk or picks up women when he's drunk and he just tricks with them? Oh my goodness. Lord, I'm sorry, God. Okay. What was the real relationship with this woman? If she can play Larry, why couldn't she be playing this other dude as well? Why couldn't that whole original case have been perhaps a failed extortion attempt, blackmail attempt? We don't know. I think one of my other questions is, let me see, which leads me into my next question. That's question 2 and 1, 2. And my next question is, why didn't Larry Reid, when he discovered this woman was perhaps a person of dubious character and was perhaps a compulsive liar, why didn't he run a background check? People dox people on YouTube all the time. How hard would it be to find out if this woman has a history of being a compulsive liar? Is there any history of her being a stripper or in a place where she's working men? Is there any history of that? Because he picked her up somewhere. Him and that girl, they met somewhere, right? This pastor whose life got apparently ruined and his church got lost, which is not totally her fault, but it seems like this might have been a failed attempt at some other bigger crime. Just wondering, why didn't you do a background check? Is there any history of this woman being a compulsive liar? All it would take is someone to go to, apparently she was raised in foster care. He couldn't hire somebody to go to a couple of places and talk to the people where she lived and find out, does this girl tell lies? Is she a storyteller? Is she a con woman? Right? The practical thing to do. Perhaps it's not even too late to do something like that. I don't know if she's going to leave him alone or not. Okay. 4 was simple. Is she a con woman? If she's a con woman, what's the angle? What is he after? Right? Now, he said that apparently he brought her some kind of notoriety in the church world where she was able to collect a little money. Maybe she had bigger plans. Because one thing I want to highlight is that when Larry Reid was talking about her, one of the first things he said was, at first, for a fleeting moment, he thought perhaps this could be my wife, which tells me that she was somehow romancing him. Some reason this man is not going to just pick his woman out and just say, that's my wife. If she is a professional, let's just say if she's used to working men, is this simply a matter of tricking? He was a mark. We don't know what her plan was, though, because from what I can see, there's no payoff yet. Now, like I told you, I'm from the streets, right? Every once in a while, I would come across somebody in the streets. Remember, everybody needed money, right? People would spend long tales. Their uncle just died. The money's in the mail. They have the deed to their mother's house. They're going to sell the house, and they can give me the money if I just give them a couple $100 right now to get them through the night. All kind of stories, right? People just spend. That's their hustle. A couple times I fell for it, but I learned. Sometimes we just got to accept that I was a mark. There was no money. I was never going to get. Why would a person jump from 100? I'm going to give you $100,000 because you wrote a story. I bet you that's a lot more than the people on the New York Times are getting for writing a story. $100,000, already unbelievable. But now my lawyer said, no, your cut for covering the story is $750,000, $750,000. They say that a con person, a con man or woman, what their marks are the victim, it always begins with greed. People believing they can get something for nothing. I've even had telemarketers call up here and say, oh, you just won a scholarship for $50,000. But what we need is your bank number. One time I fell for it. Everything for me is one time. I fall for everybody's con one time. I told them my account number, and then as soon as I hung the phone up, I knew, okay, why would I need to send them $100 if they sending me $50,000? I ran to my bank, stopped the payment, and fortunately, I did make it. Is Andrea just using her beauty as a con? I think this man should do a background check on this woman, and let that be a lesson for the future. You suspect her? She's very beautiful. What she want with my bald head ass? Ask. That's why I don't mess around on the streets and stuff. People don't want my old ass. Anyway, next question. Well, I think I already mentioned this. What was she after? Larry, he's not a wealthy man. Perhaps he has some connections in where she wanted to go or what she wanted to get. But I think to establish a con, you would have to establish What was the payoff? What was she after? Was she going to set him up to at some point blackmail him? When Victor Cousins was crawling all on the ground, drunk as a skunk, and there was some woman was taking this picture, was that her? Just a question. I'm just asking you a question. Because if you are falling down drunk and you are a noted pastor, and you got a woman in the room with you who is not your wife, why would that woman be following you around with the camera? Professional con. Blackmail. You people should have ran a check on this lady. Now, I can't say absolutely sure that this woman, I don't want to be accused of being a victim shamer and all that kind of stuff. And I would caution you, Jives, that you don't get played as well. Fortunately for you, you're gay, so she won't be able to use, that angle. But be cautious, people. If someone shows you who they are, you got to believe them, right? According to Maya, pretty bright woman. Someone shows you who they are, believe them. So if you can establish that this woman is a pathological liar, it all falls down. Even going back to the original case. This man is married. What, he really thought he was going to go and marry someone else? How well would he have to know such a person? And I've seen his picture. He ain't all that. Why would this beautiful woman? Anyway, if I have to go to pursue that angle, I'd have to go back to the beginning of the cases, and to be honest, I'm just not that interested. But I find this an interesting case. So I'm a commentator. I'm commentating. Okay. My next question I put down, number 7, was, why did Larry Reid believe that this woman would go? I think I already asked this, but it's the primary thing. Believe this woman would just give him $750,000. This sounds like a professional con to me. Why? It doesn't make any sense. Even if she did gain a couple of $1 million, no one has said has it been any more than $2 or $3 million from these mysterious lawsuits. Even if she did, would she chop off $750,000 from that money after she pays her lawyer? When she pays her lawyer, he's going to get at least a third, perhaps more. Drop her down to less than $1 million. And she's going to give Larry Reid $750,000 because he covered the case, covered the story. Sometimes it's best to just accept, okay, I got played. Covered a lot of stories, dealt with a lot of different people. I came across this. I don't know that just be calling her names is going to do anything. I think this woman might even be a professional. I think it's at least worth investigating, running a background check. It's not that hard. Has this woman ever been in prison for this? Are there other victims of this person? Is that her real name even? This story is just too bizarre, but I think it just comes down to tricking. She's beautiful. She uses her beauty, traps him in, and somehow or other, something must have went wrong where she didn't get what she wanted. I don't think she would go through all this just for $2,000 or $3,000. That doesn't sound right, unless she was a drug addict or something. But he accuses her of drinking too much and smoking too much, so I don't know. Okay, we're just talking about discussing this call, right? Right. So, my last question, because I only want to go one page into this. Was she the woman in that picture with that man with that camera? It's never explained. Right. I would think that it would be pretty easy to find out if there was ever any money. I mean, why are they making a big deal out of a couple $1,000s in some event if she just won several $1 million? She's a millionairess. Why was she, after living her life of poverty, apparently she was living in raised in foster care, she finally gets a big piece of money like that and she's going to hand it over to Larry Reid? None of it makes any sense. It sounds like a con to me. It sounds like a con. At the end of it, there might have been some extortion, some kind of extortion or blackmail. Larry Reid mentioned in passing in this interview. Come on, brain, work. Let me see. I done lost the damn chain of thought. He mentioned in passing in this interview. Fuck it, I lost it. That's enough questions with this. So now the story is that Larry Reid is a victim shaming because he's recognized that he's been played by this woman. You guys, you should go back whenever you tell the story like this. I'm not telling you how to run your channels or anything. Conscious, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it would help for us if we could be brought up to date about how this whole thing started. Who is she? Is she the woman that she got stood up at the altar or something like that and found out the man was a womanizer? Kind of vaguely. What I would like to know what this whole thing is about, kind of wrapped up before you go on to pick it up in the middle. Right? Anyway, that's my 2 cents. Those are my questions. I know Larry sometimes look at some of my videos, so if you do come across this, brother, please attempt to answer some of these questions. But the main question for me is even more than why she didn't give you the money. I want to know, was there ever any money? In other words, I want to know, was there ever a lawsuit? Did she ever collect a big paycheck? Was the lawyer even really a lawyer who told you that she was going to give you your cut? Your cut was $750,000. That sounds so much like one of those cons you see on TV, in the movies. I'm going to give you $750,000. And then the mark ends up giving them $50,000 or $60,000 or the mortgage to their house. I think you should look deeper into the background of the people involved in this thing. Just so you know, find out what you're dealing with.